guys! Welcome back to StarrSoaps channel. Today I'm going to show you how to make these awesome handmade soap thingies. Embeds, flowers, leaves, balls, whatever you want to do for your soap recipe from your soap scraps too. So come along with me and I'll show you how to make it. Squee! So for this project you're going to need a plastic knife. You don't need this set, but that's just what I got. I picked it up for like $2, so I figured why not use it. It has all these different things that come in it, but honestly all you need is just a plastic knife like you would get in a picnic set, just to work your dough. You're also going to need something to create like a dimple in the middle of your soap if you're making the kind of flowers that I showed at the beginning. So I took an old toothbrush and beheaded it. You also need a vegetable peeler and a craft knife, an X-Acto knife or anything like that will be fine. So first of all I want to show you the soap dough that I made that inspired me to want to make this video. So I made this soapy clay out of just some ends that I had off a lavender loaf, and I just peeled them up with the vegetable peeler into little pieces and then smooshed them together in my hands while they were probably about 5 or 6 days after being made. So all the lye had finished being active but the soap wasn't completely hardened yet. And this is the kind of consistency that I got. There is nothing else in this. It is just soap that I worked with my hands. So soap and a bit of elbow grease, if you will. And I've worked it into a pliable dough that I can then make things out of. So very groovy. So I'm going to show you that. So now I'm going to go ahead and make some dough so you can see how I do it. I've got the ends here off of a loaf of pumpkin chai soap that I just made recently. So I'm going to grate them up, and we're going to go ahead and smoosh them up and make a pumpkin chai dough. So first thing I do is take my peeler and I just peel the soap as finely as I can. It's tricky, especially when it's sort of soft like that. You can see it sort of get stuck to the grater a little bit like soft cheese would, but this is the best way to do it. This is how you want the consistency of your soap to be, so it can be well molded. There are other ways where if you have like older soap that's hardened, you can soak it in a little bit of water overnight to soften it, but I just find this is the best way that I get the best results with less lumps. So I speed that up for you because it is a bit time consuming grating away. I know that you can buy salad shooters and things like that that grate your soap up for you, but again, because I like to use it when it's soft and squishy like this, I don't find the salad shooters work. So this is a powder, just a talcum powder, baby powder, unscented, that I'm using to help my hands from getting too sticky. It's probably the only additive that I have. If you don't have a baby powder like that, but you do have maybe cornstarch or tapioca starch, something like that on hand, then use that. Just some kind of fine powder. And I'm just putting a little bit on my hands here as well when I go to work my shavings. So yeah, as you can see, because they're so squishy, they would actually clog up the salad shooter, which is why I'm saying that it's not really going to work for me in this case. So now I'm just trying to bring all the shavings together in my hands, smoosh them up nice, and get a really nice sort of like dough. So you like at the moment it looks funky with all those colours, but you don't really want that. You want it all one uniform colour. So I'm just going to work it in my hands and mold it and squish it and roll it. I find the best method for me is going out into a log, folding it back in on itself, then rolling it out to a log again. And a larger amount doesn't work that well. I think if you use smaller amounts you get a smoother dough. So if I was to take that ball that you can see in front of you and break it into 3 and work those 3 individual balls, they would have got smoother than what you can see there. But for the purpose of this video I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to go ahead and make another one. This is a soap that I also made recently, my chocolate and banana cream pie. It actually is a little bit more cured, as you can probably see. Like, it's easier for me to grate it because it's just that little bit firmer than the pumpkin chai was, because I had literally just made the pumpkin chai. This one had been sitting around for maybe a couple of weeks, but it's still soft, and I think that has to do with my additives in that particular soap batch. I used real banana powder and coconut cream, and I think that those lended to a softer final bar. So keep these things in mind with the soap that you choose to use to try to make a dough. Whatever additives you've put in or haven't put in, what kind of oils you used in your base recipe, these are all going to affect your final soap and how long out from its cure time you are able to leave it before you can work it like this without, you know, having to add any water or add anything. Because for me, that is the key. If I add nothing, then my final product firms up just like the original soap did. So for my personal experience, that is what has worked best. So yeah, great. There's a lot of grating going on there. Now it's time to mold this big amount, and because of this soap and the way that it is, can't really explain it. It just works better. This one molds up quicker. Something about it, maybe like I say, the coconut cream I added into the recipe or something, I'm not sure, but it definitely works better, and I managed to mold it smooth really quick, just working it in my hands like how you might have done with Play-Doh when you were a kid. So I'm also using that powder to my advantage. It's definitely getting worked into the soap, as you can probably see. It's coming up off the bench and getting worked into my soap dough. So that doesn't affect anything at the end. I haven't found that affects lather or anything like that, but it does help me when I'm working it in my hands from it, you know, sticking. So there's the two final doughs that I've made. And like I say, I think the second one came out a bit better than the first one, so that's what I'm going to go ahead and work with, which was my chocolate cream pie dough. And I'm just going to make just some standard round balls. The reason I'm going to do this is because I think a lot of soapers desire the look of the round ball, whether they want that embedded into their final soap loaf or if they like it just for topping. I know I like it for certain looks. I'm definitely using these ones in an upcoming batch of pumpkin chai because I love the look with the white all over the top of pumpkin chai and then the little balls on the top of that. So yeah, I'm just showing you how I mould the balls, and it's really simple. I just mould them in my hands. They are not perfect, obviously, they're hand moulded, but I think that adds character. And they're all a little bit different sized as well. So I go ahead and I use my plastic knife here, but I actually find that the plastic knife doesn't work that well. I mean, it's safer to work with than that metal X-Acto knife, but I just sort of, yeah, I found that a lot of the soap stuck to the actual knife, and yeah, no, I wasn't that impressed. So I think maybe working with an X-Acto knife, if you're very careful, don't cut yourself, is, you know, the way to go. But you can definitely use these plastic knives as well, safety first. So I'm just showing you now another little thing that I like to make, which is become, I think, a little bit signature to me, or to my soapy cupcakes anyway. They are my little soap curls. Dropped it. So I start off by making like a worm shape like this, roll it all out flat in my palm, and I use, as you saw, the powder to keep my fingers from sticking to it. Once I get it good, I sort of tap it flat a bit and then roll it. Just roll it up like that. Quite simple, and it actually looks quite cute. It sort of reminds me of a little shell that we see on our beach here in New Zealand, and I don't know, just groovy little soap curls. So I put them on my, you know, soap cupcakes, and you've probably seen me put them on loaves of soap and stuff as well. So now I'm going to go ahead and show you how to make the flowers that I showed you at the beginning of the video. So not the big ones, but the little flowers that were all laying on the leaves. So the first thing I do is I take my soap, make a log, and then slice off the little shapes that you can see using the sharp X-Acto knife, and they end up becoming the petals, so they're perfect, and I just sort of have to work them. So I get a little bit of that soap dough and I work it in my hands to become the center of the flower, and I start off by making quite a sort of a bud shape that I then stretch out thinner and longer because I'm actually trying to go for a different shape of flower. So I kind of start off with the normal sort of bud that you might use to make a rose or any other kind of sort of flat flower, but then I pull it out longer because I'm trying to make a bit more of a sort of a tall flower. Again, this is like a bit of a tricky process, and it takes a little bit of practice. So if you don't get it the first time, don't get angry at yourself, and remember you can just squish the stuff back down again and try again if you think it's ugly. Just keep working at it. So now I'm just getting a bit of the powder on my fingers, and I'm just pressing gently on these little slices I made to kind of bring them more out into like a petal shape, so they're not just sort of sliced, but they have, you know, more of a flat look like a petal. Most of those flowers that you saw at the beginning of the video had 4 petals. With this one I did 5, but I think 4 looks good and it's quick. So now I just start shaping those petals around that center that I made. Don't be too worried if they don't stick perfectly at first. You can just keep working them, and if you find that that's still not happening, that powder is getting in the way or something like this is happening, you can see here, you can actually very lightly wet your fingertips, and that will help everything to stick together. So I've actually been making things with my soap ends like this for a long time. This year is the first time that I've started making little creations like the flowers you can see, but I've always done balls and curls and shaped different things. I actually made flowers last year, and I'll show an image at the end of the video that you'll see of those flowers, so you can see how different these ones are. And the way that I learned this technique of how I'm shaping these flowers like this was just simply by searching gum paste flower tutorial on YouTube. So gum paste is something people tend to put on top of their cakes, and it gave me the idea of how they mold, and it gave me some inspiration on how to start molding and creating. So I had the soap dough, I just didn't necessarily have the skills to create these little beauties. I'm really chuffed with how they look. They're all a little bit individual. None of them look like absolutely perfect, but hey, neither do flowers. Okay, so here we are the next day, and I'm just trying to show you that they've set up hard. This is what the point of this part is, especially this flower because of its delicate petals. So I'm going to be ruthless, and I'm going to chuck it. I'm going to sort of drop it in there. Whoa, look at that. And it's fine, it didn't break, so that kind of shows you. And I'm just squeezing on these balls to show you that they don't squish in my fingers anymore. And again, these also have hardened, so everything's hardened back up to a nice consistency to then be put on top of something. Very cool. And I actually wanted to show you too that if you want to add extra sort of look, something fancy to it, you can paint mica detail onto the flower, and I've done this with some roses that I made, and I'll show you an image of that in a minute. I just use a normal paintbrush, and I just use mica powder dry. I don't mix it with anything, I just use a dry powder. Any colour you want, I've got a bunch of colours here. So anything you're going for to match your design. And then it doesn't really matter that your final, there you go, you can see how pretty they look. The dough was green and the mica was red. So it doesn't really matter that your dough had a sort of a plain colour to it. You could also use real petals in the middle. I've got Ko-Fi petals, but you could use calendula petals if you have them, right in the middle. Or I actually thought kiwi seeds, or just any kind of seeds that you might have, I've just got kiwi seeds, would look really cool in the centre of the flower as well, maybe. Or if you're doing fruits, you could have them on the fruit or something. So it's really up to you how you want to decorate and dress up your final soap. So here are the ones that I showed you at the beginning of the video, and I'm just going to compare what those ones look like compared to the one that I made on camera. So apart from the colour difference, you can see they're pretty much the same. Now I'm going to go ahead and make one of those bigger flowers that you could see, more like a rosebud. Not like a big open rose, more like a sort of bud, like a tight little rosebud. I prefer this shape because I think it looks really nice on top of my soap cupcakes. So, like before, I start out by making a centre part of the flower. This one's not going to be pulled out, this one's a little bit more flat, sort of like a earplug. And then I go ahead and I work my pieces of dough, And this particular dough, the banana cream pie dough, it's nice and smooth and there's not very many lumps or anything in there, so it is working beautifully for me. I use my finger, you could see there the shape of my finger, to curl the outside and make it look a little bit more like a real petal, and then it gets wrapped around, and look at that, adorable. So yeah, I just carry on in that same way. Sometimes I shape them out a little bit longer rather than round, just so that they can get all the way around, and it just adds a nice sort of natural look to the final flower, because not all petals are going to be exactly the same shape. But with this one, I find when I wrapped it on a bit too tight. So I'm just going to go around with my finger and gently sort of flare the edge and let that petal come out and stand out, so it looks really pretty. You can see that there, gorgeous. And I'm going to carry on, and again, however many petals you put on is up to you. You could do 3 or 5, 7, 9, it's up to you depending on how large you want the final flower to be. I'm only using around about 5 petals on each, because I find that that is 4 or 5, like I said earlier. I find that that's a nice tight bud look, and I really like that. I like how it looks. So yeah, carrying on, I just have to smooth out the bottom a bit so it will stand up. And oh, the sun's come out. And I'm making some more petals for my little rosebud. That is the last petal I'm going to put on, and I'm really chuffed with that. I think it looks beautiful. So you can see once again that, like the original flowers I showed right at the beginning of the video, I've made a similar shape for you on camera, really simply, but again, just because I've used pink dough in one and then the brown dough in the other. And again, you can always just paint the mica on, so it doesn't really matter. Looking good. So now I just want to show you some of the other little things that I've made and sort of compare them to what I made on camera. These are some little tiny soap curls that I made from a 100% coconut oil soap batch that I had, so that's why they look really white like that. And then I'm just comparing that to the ones that I made for you on camera. Very cute. And also some little round balls I made from that same coconut oil batch compared to the ones that I made on camera for you last night. So yeah, it's a lot of fun, and they're really cute, and they really add something to your final soap. So I think that it's definitely something to give a go, especially because you've got nothing to lose. They're just soap ends. You might as well grate them up and see what you can do when you smush them together. So here they are, and I really hope you enjoyed watching me make them. I had a lot of fun doing this video for you guys. If you did, feel free to subscribe, become a member of the StarrSoaps family, and feel that soapy love.
StarrSoaps give me natural handmade soap made without any chemicals or unpronounceable ingredients. I really love the soap, the way it makes me feel. It's silky and it's smooth, and the lather is surreal. Make it through the pie, melt it through the smooth. When you get your bubbles, well, you know it's getting cool. I love StarrSoaps. If you're gonna wash with something, make it handmade and make it extra yummy. I love all the coconut, canola, and all